So this is the HPLC. We have our pump and we have our detector, and then we have the computer. So one of the things you need to do is turn it on. It's already turned on, but there are buttons on both the detector and the pump, and then you can turn it on. So if we look at the pump, you can change the mode. Right now it's set to 1 milliliter per minute. You can change the mode, and at this point it's at 73 psi because I have not turned on the pump. So once you turn it on, I can turn the pump on, and so now it's going to increase in pressure. And then there's a high pressure and a low pressure, but what we care about most is the milliliters a minute that are being pumped through the instrument. So here we have our eluent. The eluent's getting pumped into the instrument, goes through, and then travels around, and here we have the injector. We will then inject our sample in here. It will then be stored in the sample loop, and then will eventually come out and go through the column. So some pieces of information that you need for the column are right here. So it has the length of the column and the serial number, and so you can get all the information that you need right here on the column. Another piece of information that you need to know is the sample loop volume, which is recorded on the tag that's associated with this right here. So when you inject it here, it'll be stored on the sample loop back here. Now we have our detector. So one of the things that you need to do in your pre-lab is determine what wavelength you are going to detect your capsaicins at. So you can change the wavelength by turning this knob right here, and so it will tell you what wavelength you're at. The other thing that you need to do is zero the absorbance. Right now it's giving you absorbance of this. When you hit this button, it will then zero it, and so now you're at zero absorbance. Next, so when you inject your sample, you have all your components. It goes through, it's going to be separated out on the column, and so it comes here, gets separated out, and the different components will then go to the detector. When they go to the detector, as they go in path, the light beam path, you're going to get larger absorbance. The higher the concentration, the higher the absorbance you're going to get. So once you've logged on to the instrument, what we want to do is click on the Allcom Plus software. So we double click on that, and we should pop up with the software. It comes up with student, and this is caffeine for HPLC, which is a Gen Chem 2 experiment. We want to change the user identification to chemist, CHEMIST, and once you do that, it's populated with capsaicin, and so then you can click OK. Next what we want to do is click on the Systems tab, and then we come up here and you click on that box there, and now we are ready to operate the software. Before you do an injection, one thing that you need to do is go to Acquisition, Quick Start, and this is the method, which is the capsaicin method. We click OK, and next this is the file that we're going to put it as. So if it was me, I would put gift underscore, and I could put something like hot pepper breakthrough check, or 25 standard, or something like that. So put a descriptive title in the file prefix. I'm going to put test this time, and then when I hit start, I'm not actually starting injection. All I've done is set up the software so it's ready to inject. So at this point I hit start, and then I can go to injecting a sample. When it comes time to inject your sample, you're going to be using the syringe to inject it in here. So when we do this, the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our syringe is rinsed with the solution that we're going to be injecting. So we can rinse it 2 or 3 times, pull some solution up, bring the stopper down to make sure it's well rinsed, and then if you look closely back here, there is a tiny little hole in the used solution container back here, and you can inject it in that. You want to rinse it 2 or 3 times with the solution going to be injecting. So I'll do it one more time. Rinse the syringe and then put it in the used solution container. Next, I want to load the syringe so I can inject the sample. Basically, you need less than half a syringe full. You do not want any air bubbles in there. So you wipe the top, and with a chem wipe, make sure that the air bubble is out of the syringe, and then when the solution starts to come out again, you're okay. Next, we need to inject it. Make sure this knob is what I call the 2 o'clock position, or pointed up in this direction. We'll take the syringe, we'll push it. There's a little bit of resistance, push it all the way in, and then we push it in, and then we're ready to go. You turn it down to the 4 o'clock position, and it should start. Good. So after you input your file prefix, you then hit start. Of course, this does not actually start the run. You have to change it from the 2 o'clock to the 4 o'clock position. But when you do hit start, if you look down here, it says idle. It's going to change to downloading method. Of course, it's in yellow, which is unfortunate because it's hard to read. Now it says waiting for injection. At this point, you can then take your syringe and inject it in here, and then push it down to the 4 o'clock position. Good. When looking at your data, one thing that you may have to do is adjust your baseline, especially if you are looking at your samples. You probably won't have to do it with your standards. This is a good example of what you might see. So this black line here is the baseline. And to get a better look, you can draw a box to zoom in on the peaks of interest. And when you do that, and I'll zoom in a little bit more, you can see that the baseline is not accurate to where the peak actually is. What we need to do is refit the baseline. In order to do that, go to a point before the peak where you want the baseline to hit, right click it, if I can get it to right click, add event, baseline, force baseline, and then after doing that, it looks like nothing is done. So what you have to do is you have to go to File, Save Chromatogram, hit Yes, and then it refits it to the baseline. After doing that, you're going to have new values for the areas of these peaks, and so then you need to go to File and Print, and then you can go collect those on the printer. Good.